I am staying firm. My winner is Oklahoma State. They're they are they will continue to get better. Their offensive line will, like Spencer Sanders hasn't even played more than 2 drives. One of those drives was like a one-play drive. So their defense is the story of the Big 12. If you really want to know. Um, so yeah, I'm still on Oklahoma State. I'm starting to lean towards maybe they play Iowa State in the championship game.
I'm with you on Oklahoma State because I think, like you said, it is the story of the conference. It's the only story of the conference is that Oklahoma State defense. But like I've talked about it for years. We talk about the Big 12 and offense and how the defenses are always terrible. But the one thing that always separates the best team in the conference from everybody else is that team typically has the best defense. Now, that hasn't really been the case the last couple of years with Oklahoma, but I do think the fact that Oklahoma State has shown through 3 games that it's got a pretty salty defense and it's got a good defense, that is what is going to end up separating it from everybody else. So I think Oklahoma State has to be the favorite to win it right now. And as far as who they're going to play, I would say the winner of Texas, Oklahoma. Whoever wins that game will probably be playing Oklahoma State in the conference championship.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Like what? Flesh that out. Because Oklahoma State or Oklahoma's lost. They've already lost. They're 0 for 2 in the conference. Yeah, like first 2 chances.
But they're also capable of peeling off another 7 straight wins. Because I think that too with Spencer Sanders, a young quarterback, I think that that's something that as the season goes along, he can improve. So therefore the offense can get better. And maybe Lincoln Riley feels like he could do more with the offense with him, because maybe that's part of the problem now too. I haven't really dove deep into what Oklahoma's play calling situation is, but maybe they've kind of got a limited playbook right now. And I think defensively, it'll be hard for them to be worse, and they'll be getting a couple key guys back. So maybe that improves a little bit. But again, I just think that I look at Iowa State and Kansas State, and they're both off to 2-0 starts, but I can't sit here and say that I forgot about the teams that lost to Louisiana and Arkansas State and not think that those two are both just as capable of tripping up during conference play. Like, they could lose to TCU, they could lose to West Virginia, they could lose to Baylor, they could lose to any of these teams a couple times and find themselves in a similar situation. So when it comes to who's going to be the other team, I'm going to bet on talent before I do anything else. And right now, Texas and Oklahoma are still the 2 most talented teams in the conference. So I think it's going to be one of those 2.
I'm going to be stubborn and stick with my Texas pick. I picked them to win the Big 12. I'm going to stick with it. I'd feel a lot better. Way to go out on a limb, Barton, and pick the 2 teams atop the division right now. Way to go out on a limb.
Sorry for predicting Oklahoma State at the jump.
I know. I would be pounding the table too. I would be doing a victory lap. There's a lot of football left. I would have felt better instead of Sam Ehlinger after the game being like, it was kind of a downer. He's like, man, Texas fans deserve better than this. It was just, if he would have given the Tim Tebow after Ole Miss, like, we will never lose again, I would have felt a lot better about Texas if that's what we had seen unfold. Instead, we didn't. But yet I do feel like Texas could have that type of turnaround in their season. I still think Oklahoma could have that type of turnaround, because I agree with Tom. Like, the offense still is producing. If Spencer Rattler eliminates a couple boneheaded, not true freshman, but first year starter type of mistakes, like, you're in high school making those throws and they're completions. That's the big difference. He doesn't know yet. In that situation, those balls are going to be interceptions you try to squeeze in there. Like, you think you can make that play. If he learns, the offense still is amazing. The defense has massive issues. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, as everybody's, kind of mocking the Big 12, oh, they're done, they're toast. How do we know the ACC is not going to look like that? The SEC is not going to look like that. Teams outside of Clemson and Bama, of course. But maybe even they slip up one. We don't know. The Big 10, that could be a disaster. Like, we all thought this was going to happen. We were going to see chaos and we were going to see upsets like we've never seen before because of the gauntlet conference only play. The Big 12 is just getting it to it's happening to them first. But I think everybody else just better, like, before everyone else is counting the Big 12 out, just let's let a few weeks play out and see what happens in the rest of the conferences. Because I think you might see mayhem like we thought we were going to see.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, my thing with I actually do think Oklahoma is almost a pick I can get on board with more so than Texas, because yes. I just don't think Texas has even really looked that good. Like, TCU game.
But they were on the one. They should have won that game, right? They were really close to winning.
But you could also make a case like TCU. I put money on TCU +6 at halftime, I think was the line. Like because I looked at that first half and I was like, this is like, I think TCU's the better team. Like, it wasn't like they got lucky the first half. Like they left points on the field. You know, they had to settle for field goals a few times. Texas doesn't tackle that well. Texas gives up big plays. Texas doesn't make plays at receiver. Like they got drops. Like there's just a lot about Texas that's just concerning generally to me. And Oklahoma, to me, again, is I think what my eyes are telling me based on what I'm watching on the field is a little bit more of just, hey, same old Oklahoma. Their offense is still explosive. I could see them getting on track a little bit easier. My issue with them is they're 0-2 in conference. Like they're starting out 2 games behind the 8 ball. And so I don't know. I'm not sure this is just going to be that easy. Like Texas, you could also make a case. You said that they're a fumble away from winning that game. They're also a miracle away from losing to Texas Tech.
Yes.
You said who probably is 9th in the conference right now in terms of like the power ranking. So I just don't have a lot of confidence in Texas.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I mean, obviously, if Texas beats Oklahoma this weekend, Oklahoma's done. But I'm with you in that, strangely, even at 0-2, I have more confidence in Oklahoma getting to the Big 12 championship than Texas, simply because, like I was saying, with Spencer Rattler being young, I feel like Oklahoma has room for improvement. The Texas team we've seen is the same Texas team we've seen the last few years. The iconic quarterback, Sam Ehlinger, is still the iconic Texas quarterback, Sam Ehlinger. I don't expect he's going to improve. I think he is who he is. I think Texas is what it is. I think Spencer Rattler can improve. And if he improves, I think that entire offense improves. And if the offense improves, it helps out a defense that needs, that's had lots of problems. So I'm strangely more confident in Oklahoma as long as Lincoln starts, going for it on 4th and goal.
Oklahoma's also got a true freshman at running back. They've I think after we talked about it on the reaction, they're breaking in some new faces. And again, Texas doesn't have those same excuses. I mean, Texas has experience at running back, experience at quarterback. They should have experience at receiver. Like their offensive line has got guys that have been there. Their defense is full of guys that have been there. I think Texas is a lot harder to explain away what we're seeing out of Texas than it is with Oklahoma.
No belief in TCU or Iowa State?
I have belief in them. Like, I'm not ruling them out as being able to get to the Big 12 championship. I'm just going to bet on Oklahoma before I bet on them, because I think that those teams looked good this weekend, but I think both of those teams also have flaws, just like Oklahoma does.
I think the reason I picked Iowa State in this discussion is because Brock Purdy still hadn't had a good game. And so there's got to be some improvement there with Brock Purdy. The run game, obviously, Breece Hall has been balling. And so I don't know. I think Iowa State, I don't know, there's more confidence inspiring. And I think that, like, when you think about their 2 wins, right, they're 2-0 in the conference, and the 2 teams that they've beaten, Oklahoma and TCU, are teams that, we would all consider probably in the top half of the conference. So I just think that in and of itself creates a advantageous situation for them.
How crazy would it be if Louisiana runs the table, Iowa State, like that is the scenario you need for a group of 5 team to get in, is to beat a conference champ that's in the discussion. If Iowa State is there, that I don't think it happens. But if they are, our boy Emory Hunt, our Louisiana Raging Cajun, is going to, and they'll have as good a case as we've seen in the short history of the college football playoff to say we deserve a spot. That'll be fascinating.
They'll have a good opportunity this weekend. They're playing Coastal Carolina.
That is going to be a fun game.
Yeah, that. Put that in the top 3 or 4 of the weekend right there.
Yeah, that is like the low key game of the week that nobody's going to watch but us, but everybody should be watching it.
So I think that Oklahoma State almost without a doubt makes the Big 12 championship game. But within the Oklahoma State fan base, like, Barton, did you feel any pushback when you started getting, like, when you pushed out your Oklahoma State positivity? Did you have any Oklahoma State fans coming back at you with like we've heard this before, wait till you see how it goes? I mean, they've got that mindset of having their heart broken so many times that I wonder if sometimes it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy with some of those teams that, You're gonna get to the championship game. You're gonna get right there to the end, and then it's gonna be a Lincoln Riley or a Tom Herman, an Oklahoma or a Texas right there to rip your heart out in Dallas. And in that sense, I almost want to like take this Saturday's winner as the Big 12 champion. But I do believe that if we are power ranking the Big 12, I'll go Cowboys number 1. But man, 2-13 in Bedlam is tough. And like when you were there in 2011, having it all come crashing down at the hands of Iowa State on like a Friday night, right? It was a Thursday or Friday night.
Thursday.
I mean, there's
Friday. I think it was. Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter.
There's something really like deep seated. Like they would be exercising some demons if they win the Big 12 championship in a big way.
Bunch of Eeyores in that fan base.
But there is. I mean, you say like you opened that statement by saying something to the effect of like, yeah, I think we can all agree they're probably going to be in the Big 12 championship game or something like that. Like to play devil's advocate here, like that is still a long way away. Like they've played Kansas and West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and so they just don't have the warts yet that the others have, but they also really haven't had the opportunity to show them. So we're a long way from them being like the clear favorite, but they're sort of the safest pick right now.
Kansas State, TCU. How many teams? How long does the list go for teams that you say maybe not that you would trust, but that you say like, yeah, that's a pretty good ball team? Because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5.
Sounds about right. I'd go the same.
I feel like everybody but Kansas in the Big 12 is decent enough.
Texas Tech included?
Yeah, I don't think Texas Tech is awful. I think its defense is pretty awful, but again, they almost beat Texas. And I look at this conference from top to bottom, and it's like there is no elite team, but there's only one truly bad team. Everybody else is kind of like, if you're doing it for like percentiles or tiers, I don't think there's much of a gap between the bottom and the top outside of Oklahoma and Texas. I still feel that in the long run, they're still the 2 best teams in the conference. But I don't think that middle tier is all that different from top to bottom. And I think every single team in it is capable of beating everybody else.
Which is that's a death sentence in the college football playoffs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so what's Pac-12 has been dealing with since Oregon's not dominant, USC's not dominant, Washington's not dominant. So it might be their death sentence for the college football playoff this year too.
Big 12 is one big optical illusion. Like they're like,
it's a sailboat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see a pirate.
Like it's a very eye of the beholder conference. It's a very there is so much parity in it, because the 9th best team is so much closer than the 1st best team, as you know, more so than most conferences. You can sort of call it whatever you want. And I like last year, I think it was last year that I was sort of pounding the table saying the Big 12 is good, at least early in the season.
Before they went 1-6 in bowl games.
Right, but they just got absolutely rocked in the postseason.
They didn't care though. They didn't want to be there.
But I saw there was someone on the staff of one of the new coaching staffs last year in the Big 12. So there's, how many new coaching staffs were there? 4 or 5 or something. So I don't think I'm giving this away by just saying it was one of the new staffs.
At least
was
2.
Right.
He was like 4 new staffs. He was like, I was talking about the conference. He was like, yeah, like this is not a very good conference. Like he said that. And so I think it's just, it's really hard to figure the Big 12 out. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see, like, because there's no crossover games to ground it, to sort of give it relativity and context. And so we're just all going to be able to call the Big 12 whatever we want to call it. And when there's a lot of points scored and a lot of missed tackles, usually the default is not very good. So I don't know. I think they got some work to do to change that perception.
Why didn't you share that information? That would have been information that could have been very helpful last year.
I think I got that information in the off season.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, this all started with them going 0-3 to the Sun Belt, right? Like this is, and and whatever the Big 12 is, and I guess we'll wrap it up there with the eye of the beholder as a very apt analysis. It's fun to talk about. It's very, very fun.
It is fun to talk about. Yeah.
Without a doubt.